Time now for a preview of some of today's front pages, along with the Associated Press photos you might find inside. And let's go first to a few of the pictures here that are interesting this morning. NBC last night announced its replacement for David Letterman. He's there with Jay Leno on the left. He's Conan O'Brien, a comedy writer. I have to admit, few people have ever heard of him before. Actually, I think this picture is going to be published on a milk carton. Anybody ever seen this guy before?
Conan O'Brien, actually. NBC hopes to turn this relatively little-known writer-comedian into a household word. He will be taking over when Letterman jumps to CBS this summer. The announcement was made last night on The Tonight Show.
Nobody knows this guy. Nobody's seen him. I thought you might want to say hello to him. It's Mr. Conan O'Brien. Come on out here. How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks a lot.
This man is probably my biggest inspiration right now. No, not the man with the gray hair and the big chin, but the young man on the left, Conan O'Brien, an ex-Simpsons and SNL writer, stumbled his way to late-night television thanks to a wonderful man named David Letterman. Conan started his journey with Late Night with Conan O'Brien on September 13th, 1993. The show was known for its edgier humor than most talk shows at the time, along with a large amount of sarcasm. According to Robert Smigel, who served as head writer in 1993, the show's approach comedy-wise was to differentiate themselves than Letterman's. With Late Night, not only did Conan produce sketches and returning gags like The Year 2000 and The Masturbating Bear, but he was also able to produce some of the most comedic pieces of art, known as Remote. Those, of course, being about Conan going off into the real world and doing something stupid and funny. He also did tons of cool special episodes, like an entire episode done in claymation, an entire episode recreated in quote-unquote Skelevision, and even an entire show, but the audience was filled with children from ages 5 to 10. Now, let's skip a couple years down the line, shall we? It's 2004. In an announcement made on September 27th, NBC officially announced that Conan would be taking the torch for The Tonight Show, replacing Jay Leno. It was also speculated that around that same time, Leno would also retire from television. Leno then proceeded to explain himself and why he was choosing Conan. Here's the clip.
Welcome back. I want to elaborate on an announcement made earlier today. You may have heard about this. I'm going to leave the show in 2009. Okay. All right. No, let me explain. Let me explain how these things work. There's all talk about Conan O'Brien. Will he go to ABC? Will he go to one of these other networks? And they came to me and they said, we don't want to lose Conan O'Brien. And I said, oh, okay, what does that mean? And they said, we think Conan would be a good replacement, as I do. Conan is a gentleman, funny, the hottest late-night guy out there, excellent. And then in 2009, I'll say, Conan, take it over, it's yours. Because, and I want to say, I don't think there's a better choice. Because, when I took this show over, boy, there was a lot of animosity between me and Dave and who's going to get it. And quite frankly, a lot of what I thought, good friendships were permanently damaged. And I don't want to see anybody ever have to go through that again. Because this show is like a dynasty. You hold it, and then you hand it off to the next person. And I don't want to see all the fighting and all, and who's better, and nasty things back and forth in the press. So right now, here it is. Conan, it's yours. See you in 5 years, buddy. Okay, clear enough?
Jay wanted to announce his years in advance to avoid conflict with Conan, kind of like how he had conflict with David Letterman on who would take over Johnny Carson's spot. Conan would be waiting for 5 more years until one fateful day in 2009. On May 29th, Leno would host his last episode, and 2 days later, Conan would be welcomed onto The Tonight Show. After Conan left, an up-and-coming SNL actor named Jimmy Fallon took over the late night show. Anyways, why is this all so important? Well, The Tonight Show is this really big franchise, and it comprises of 6 comedians over the past 60 years. Those include Steve Allen, Jack Parr, the aforementioned Johnny Carson, Jay Leno, Conan O'Brien, Jay Leno, and later on, Jimmy Fallon. Found something weird about that list of comedians? We'll get to that in a bit. Now, while Conan was vibing with the show at 11 o'clock, Jay wasn't done yet. He started up the Jay Leno Show, which was at 10. Now, this ended up being a big deal on late night television at the time because NBC gave Jay all the good guests, a better audience, since it was earlier, and took away all of Conan's excitement and thunder. 4 months go by, and Jay's show comes crashing down. The end. right? Nah. NBC decided it was best to move Jay back down to 11:35 and then move Conan down to 12:05, all while assuming that everyone, including O'Brien, would think it's fine. 12:05? That ain't even tonight anymore! That's tomorrow morning! That mindset is what Conan had when he initially found out. He realized the only other option was to leave NBC. NBC announced that they had paid $45 million to buy out O'Brien's contract, ending both his tenure as host as well as his relationship with NBC after 22 years on late night and The Tonight Show.
But here's the deal. I've known Jay Leno for, I don't know, 35 years, a long, long time. And we used to buddy around in the old days, and what we're seeing now is kind of vintage Jay. And it's enjoyable for me to see this. It's like, hey, there he is. There's the guy I know. And he said that we should not blame Conan for what's going on.
Don't blame Conan.
Don't blame Conan for what's going on. And I said to myself, no one is blaming Conan.
Just the mere mention of Jay Leno's name makes me want to vomit. I don't like this guy. I don't disguise it. And probably what irritates me the most is people in show business are afraid to say how much they dislike Jay Leno, but I am not. Well, first of all, let's look at the history of Jay Leno. Jay Leno pushed Johnny Carson out of The Tonight Show. That was #1. And he did it in a merciless way. And then Dave Letterman, who wanted the job. Okay, he didn't get the job. Fair enough. But look at the integrity of a David Letterman. David Letterman was rejected by NBC. He was told he was being passed over for the job. Did he sit there like a dog and take that from NBC? No, he did what any man would do. He got up and he moved over to CBS and took over the show.
Right.
Now, Jay Leno, on the other hand, seems to be the kind of showbiz animal that will not let go. Here is a guy who worked on The Tonight Show for 17 years. He was #1 in his time slot.
Right.
He gets fired by NBC. They put on Conan O'Brien. What would you do as a man? Wouldn't you go to another network?
If you don't make partner, you're supposed to leave and go to another firm.
No, Jay is a lapdog. He goes on at 10 o'clock at night. He bombs there. But seriously, Jay Leno then loses the 10 o'clock slot, and they say to him, you know, they say to Jay, would you go back on at 11:30, and we'll put Conan on at 12. And Jay goes, yeah, well, I guess I'd do that, only if Conan's okay with it. So was Conan okay with it? No, he said, no, I'm not okay with that. I don't want to leave at 11:30. And what does Jay do? Jay takes the job.
This is where Dave Letterman comes in along with Howard Stern. They somehow made this entire situation even more public, and for good reason, by explaining how god-awful it was. Howard Stern especially made it extremely public because of his extreme dislike towards Jay Leno. Meanwhile, on the complete opposite side of the late-night spectrum was George Lopez. Yes, that George Lopez, with his late-night show, Lopez Tonight, on TBS. Oh, you know, the channel with American Dad?
I have something that sounds really crazy, and I want to propose this to you and let you know. If I don't have your blessing, this deal does not go forward. He said, what would you think about Conan O'Brien coming to TBS and taking the 11 o'clock spot and you going to midnight? I said, I think it's fantastic. He says, will you call Conan and tell him how you feel about TBS, how you feel we do business? And I said, absolutely. TBS and Warner Brothers and Telepictures has been nothing but great to Lopez Tonight. They've been nothing but great to me. And Conan is a wonderful asset to the TBS family. And also, I believe that this combination, almost a same-sex Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball, if you will take late night into a new generation. I'm going to tell you, and I think respectfully, Conan will not have an issue with this. What he was concerned with was that he wasn't going to do to me what was done to him at NBC. That was his biggest concern, that he did not want to get, as they say on Twitter, Leno'd. I am not getting Leno'd. I welcome Conan. I think that moving to midnight, hey, I'll go to work an hour later. Come on, it's a dream come true. And the pay's the same. Conan O'Brien only wanted to know that he could do the type of show that he wanted to do, and his biggest concern was that he was not going to do to me what was done to him. That is not the case. And if you hear about that, you didn't hear it from me. That is not the case.
George thought it would be nice to invite Conan with him on TBS, and in 2010, Conan made Conan, his ongoing show that's been going on, that's still going on, after his 7-month hiatus from TV. That's right. Upon his departure from NBC, Conan was not allowed to be on television at all for 7 months. However, to make up for that, he went on tour for 42 different shows from April to June, naming it the Legally Prohibited from Being Funny on Television tour. Crazy. Conan took Lopez's spot on 11:30, and George moved down to midnight. According to Lopez, Conan and him were going to take late night into the future. So now everything is fine. For Conan, sure. But George wasn't doing too hot a couple of years down the line. In 2011, Lopez Tonight was not renewed for another season. Both Conan and Lopez's views were dwindling, and TBS ended up having to pick between the two. A man in the industry for over 20 years, or George Lopez. So, in the end, Conan ended up making a great recovery in the basic cable. Conan became a success and continued to make a ton more of the same funny bits, remotes, and sketches that remind you of his late night glory days. To this day, Conan continues to air on TBS, and even recently he ended up making some major changes into the show. Changes include making the show 30 minutes instead of an hour, removing the band, and ditching the desk, something Conan has never done before. Fallon has had The Tonight Show and has had it since 2014. Jay Leno's retired and doing some card thing or something, I don't know. But, more recently, there's been a lot of other late night talk show hosts that have come to fruition, like Stephen Colbert. Actually, a late night host I'm getting into more. James Corden, the other much worse Jimmy, and even Lily Singh? Yeah, that kind of happened. Don't worry, nothing important, except that her show is horrendous, adds fake laughs to painful jokes, and turns the actual interviews into stupid games.
It's great because alone time is when I do self-care. You know, I recharge, meditate, and center myself. It's also great because I hate holding in my farts.
Stop! Whatever, I don't want to get into it. That's it, I'm going to bed. A very special thank you to WanupDeShroom for making that brand new, awesome intro. I put this one on the back burner for a very long time. I hope you guys liked the video. Thank you guys so much. There's more to come.